What happens when two of Hollywood's most beloved personalities clash on live television? The answer might shock you. Jeff Daniels, known for his calm demeanor and thoughtful interviews, walked off Kelly Clarkson's set in the middle of filming, leaving the audience in stunned silence and producers scrambling. But what could possibly make the Emmy-winning actor abandon an interview so abruptly? Before we get into what actually went down, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think happened. Trust me, this story is wild. It started like any other episode. Kelly Clarkson, always the warm and welcoming host, greeted Jeff Daniels with her signature enthusiasm. The audience applauded as he walked out, waving and smiling. He settled into the guest chair, and Kelly kicked things off with her usual charm. "Jeff, it is so good to have you here. I have been a fan for so long, and I just have to say, your work in the newsroom absolutely changed how I think about television drama," Kelly said. Leaning forward with genuine excitement in her eyes, Jeff smiled politely, nodding. "Thank you, Kelly. That means a lot. We worked really hard on that show, and it was important to all of us to get the tone right." Kelly grinned and glanced at her notes. "You know, I was reading about your approach to acting, and you've said before that you don't really prepare the way other actors do. You kind of just show up and feel it out. Is that still true?" There was a pause. Jeff's expression shifted slightly, just a flicker of something that might have been annoyance. "Well, I think that might be oversimplifying it a bit. I do prepare. I just don't subscribe to one particular method. Every role is different." Kelly laughed, not picking up on the subtle shift in his tone. Right. But I mean, you're not like method actors who stay in character for months. You're more, I don't know, spontaneous?" Jeff's jaw tightened just a fraction. "I wouldn't say spontaneous. I'd say adaptable. There's a difference between being unprepared and being flexible enough to respond to what's happening in the moment." The audience was still smiling, oblivious to the growing tension. Kelly pressed on, trying to keep the energy light. Okay, I hear you. But come on, you've got to admit, some actors take it way too seriously, right? Like, you don't need to live in the woods for 6 months to play a guy who lives in the woods." Jeff didn't laugh. "Actually, I think commitment to a role is something to be respected, not mocked. If an actor feels they need to immerse themselves completely, who am I to judge that?" Kelly blinked, sensing she'd hit a nerve. "Oh, I wasn't mocking anyone. I just meant that, there are different approaches, and yours seems more relaxed, which is cool." "Relaxed," Jeff repeated, his voice flat. "Kelly, with all due respect, I've been doing this for over 40 years. I've worked with some of the greatest directors and actors in the world. What I do isn't relaxed, it's refined." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Kelly tried to recover, her smile a bit more forced now. Of course. I didn't mean to imply otherwise. I think what you do is amazing. Let's talk about your new project. I heard you're working on something really exciting." Jeff looked at her for a long moment before responding. "You know, Kelly, I think maybe we should talk about why you really invited me here. Because it seems like you've already decided what kind of actor I am, and I'm not sure anything I say is going to change that." Kelly's eyes widened. "What? No, Jeff, that's not true at all. I'm a huge fan. I just wanted to have a conversation about your process." "A conversation?" Jeff said, his voice growing colder, "usually involves listening. What you're doing is trying to fit me into some narrative you've already written in your head. The laid-back actor who doesn't take things too seriously. That's not who I am, and frankly, it's insulting." The studio had gone completely silent. You could hear the cameras still rolling, capturing every second of the unraveling interview. Kelly looked genuinely distressed now, her hands gesturing as she tried to find the right words. "Jeff, I promise you, that was not my intention. If I came across that way, I sincerely apologize. I was just trying to, keep things fun and light." "Fun and light," Jeff echoed, shaking his head. "You know what's not fun? Being reduced to a caricature on national television. I came here because I respect you as a performer, Kelly. I thought we'd have a real conversation about the work. Instead, I'm being asked to defend my entire career." Kelly's producer, standing just off camera, made a subtle gesture, trying to signal for a commercial break. But Kelly waved him off, determined to fix this herself. "Okay, let's reset, please. Can we just start over? I clearly messed up here, and I want to make it right." Jeff leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You want to make it right?" Then stop treating your guests like they're here to entertain you. We're here to talk about our work, not to be the punchline of your jokes or the subject of your commentary." "That is not what I was doing," Kelly said, her own frustration starting to show. "I ask tough questions sometimes, yes, but I also try to make people comfortable. That's kind of my thing." "Your thing," Jeff said, his voice sharp now, "seems to be making assumptions and then getting defensive when someone calls you out on it. You asked me about my process. I answered honestly, and you immediately tried to spin it into something it wasn't." Kelly took a deep breath, clearly trying to keep her composure. "Jeff, I think you're reading way too much into this. I was making conversation. That's what talk shows are. We go back and forth, we joke around, we keep things moving. If every little comment is going to be analyzed like this, we're never going to get anywhere." "Maybe that's the problem," Jeff shot back. "Maybe we shouldn't be trying to get anywhere. Maybe we should just be honest with each other instead of playing these games." The audience was completely frozen now, unsure whether to applaud, laugh, or just sit in awkward silence. Kelly glanced at them, then back at Jeff, and you could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how to salvage this, but Jeff wasn't giving her any room to maneuver. "Games?" Kelly repeated, her voice dropping. "You think I'm playing games with you?" "I think you're trying to control a narrative," Jeff said evenly. "And when I don't fit into that narrative, you're scrambling. That's not a conversation, Kelly. That's a performance." Kelly sat back, and for the first time, she looked genuinely hurt. "Wow. Okay. So you're saying that everything I do is fake? That I don't actually care about my guests or their stories? I'm saying that right now, in this moment. You're more concerned with how this looks than with actually hearing what I'm trying to tell you." Kelly's expression hardened. She wasn't backing down anymore. "You know what, Jeff? Maybe you're right. Maybe I am concerned with how this looks, because I have a show to run, a crew to think about, and an audience that tuned in to watch a conversation, not a therapy session." Jeff's eyebrows shot up. "A therapy session? Is that what you think this is?" "I think you came in here with a chip on your shoulder," Kelly said, her voice rising slightly. "I asked you a simple question about your acting process, something I've asked dozens of guests before, and you turned it into a personal attack. So yeah, maybe this is more about you than it is about me." The audience gasped quietly. This was not the Kelly Clarkson they were used to seeing. She was always the peacemaker, the one who smoothed over awkward moments with humor and grace. But right now, she was standing her ground, and Jeff seemed almost surprised by it. "A chip on my shoulder," Jeff repeated slowly. "Kelly, I've been doing interviews for decades. I know when someone is genuinely interested in what I have to say and when they're just checking boxes. Your questions weren't about understanding my work, they were about confirming what you already thought you knew." "That is completely unfair," Kelly countered. "You don't get to decide what my intentions were. I asked you about your process because I genuinely wanted to know. If you took it the wrong way, that's on you, not me." Jeff leaned forward, his voice low but intense. "Let me ask you something, Kelly. When was the last time you sat down with a guest and actually listened to their answer instead of already planning your next question? When was the last time you let a conversation breathe instead of rushing through it to get to the next segment?" Kelly's face flushed. "That is incredibly condescending. You're acting like I don't know how to do my job. I'm acting like you've forgotten why you started doing this job in the first place. You were a singer, Kelly. You understood what it meant to bare your soul in front of people, to be vulnerable. What happened to that person? She grew up," Kelly snapped. "She learned that sometimes you have to keep things moving, that you can't dwell on every single moment, that entertainment means giving people what they came for." "And what did they come for?" Jeff asked. "Surface-level banter and pre-scripted anecdotes. Is that really what you think people want?" Kelly stood up suddenly, and for a moment it looked like she might walk off her own set. But she stayed, pointing a finger at Jeff. "You don't get to come on my show and tell me what my audience wants. You don't get to lecture me about authenticity when you're sitting there acting superior to everyone else in the room." Jeff remained seated, maddeningly calm now. "I'm not acting superior. I'm trying to have a real conversation with you, and you keep deflecting." Kelly's voice cracked slightly. I apologized. I tried to reset. I offered to start over. "What more do you want from me, Jeff?" "I want you to stop apologizing and start listening," Jeff said quietly, "because right now, you're so busy defending yourself that you can't hear what I'm actually saying." Kelly sat back down heavily, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. The silence stretched out, painful and thick. The audience didn't know where to look. Some were staring at their phones, others at the floor. Anywhere but at the two people on stage locked in this impossible moment. Finally, Kelly spoke, her voice quieter now. "Okay, I'm listening. What are you actually trying to say to me?" Jeff exhaled slowly. "I'm saying that I came here expecting a peer, someone who understood the weight of what we do. And instead, I felt like I was being interviewed by someone who'd already written the story before I opened my mouth. That's not about you being a bad host, Kelly. It's about me feeling like my work was being diminished." Kelly nodded slowly, and for a second it seemed like they might actually find common ground. But then she spoke again. "And I'm saying that you came in here defensive, looking for reasons to be offended, and you found them. Maybe your work wasn't being diminished. Maybe you're just so used to being treated a certain way that anything less feels like an insult." Jeff's face darkened. "You think I'm entitled? Is that what this is about?" "I think you're used to a certain level of deference," Kelly said carefully. "And when you didn't get it, you lashed out. That's human, Jeff, but don't put that on me." "Deference," Jeff said, tasting the word. "I don't want deference, Kelly. I want respect. And respect means actually engaging with what someone is saying instead of dismissing it as oversensitivity or entitlement." Kelly threw her hands up. "I am engaging? I've been engaging this entire time. But every time I try to meet you halfway, you move the goalposts. Nothing I say is good enough. Nothing I do is right. At what point do you take responsibility for your part in this?" "My part?" Jeff's voice rose for the first time. "My part is that I answered your questions honestly and you didn't like the answers." "That's not on me, Kelly. That's on you for asking questions you didn't really want answered." "That is such a cop-out," Kelly shot back. "You're acting like you're some noble truth-teller, and I'm just this shallow talk show host who can't handle reality. Do you hear how arrogant that sounds?" Jeff stood up now, and the energy in the room shifted immediately. The audience sat up straighter. The cameras zoomed in. Kelly stood as well, facing him across the coffee table that separated them. "I don't think I'm better than you," Jeff said, his voice tight with restrained anger. "But I do think I deserve to be heard, without having my words twisted or my intentions questioned. And if that makes me arrogant in your eyes, then so be it." "Your words weren't twisted," Kelly insisted. "You said you don't prepare like other actors." "I repeated what you said." "How is that twisting anything?" "Because you added your own interpretation to it," Jeff said. "You made it sound like I just show up and wing it, like I don't take the work seriously." "That's not what I said, and it's not what I meant." Kelly shook her head, frustration evident in every line of her body. "This is ridiculous. We are arguing about semantics, when the real issue is that you can't handle being challenged. The second I pushed back even a little bit, you went on the defensive." "I went on the defensive because you were attacking my credibility," Jeff said coldly. "There's a difference between challenging someone and belittling them, Kelly, and what you did crossed that line." "I never belittled you," Kelly said, her voice breaking slightly. "I have nothing but respect for you and your work. If that didn't come through, I'm sorry. But I cannot keep apologizing for something I don't believe I did wrong." Jeff stared at her for a long moment. "Then we have nothing left to talk about." The words hung in the air like a death sentence for the interview. Kelly's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "Jeff, please, can we just breathe for a second? This doesn't have to end like this." "It already has," Jeff said simply. He reached up and unclipped the microphone from his shirt, the sound of it loud in the silent studio. "Thank you for having me, Kelly. I hope your next guest gives you what you're looking for." Kelly's eyes were shining now. Whether from anger or tears or both, it was hard to tell. "Don't do this. Don't walk off. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix," Jeff said, his voice softer now, but no less final. "This is who you are, and this is who I am, and those two things don't work together. It's nobody's fault. It just is." Kelly stepped around the coffee table, closing the distance between them. "No, Jeff, you don't get to do that. You don't get to reduce this entire conversation to some philosophical incompatibility and walk away like you're taking the high road. That's not what's happening here." Jeff paused, the microphone still in his hand. "Then what is happening here, Kelly? Because from where I'm standing, we've spent the last 20 minutes talking past each other, and I don't see that changing." What's happening? Kelly said. Her voice, steady now, is that you're uncomfortable. Something I said hit a nerve, and instead of just admitting that, you're trying to make this about me and my inadequacies as a host, but the truth is, you're the one who can't handle being questioned. Jeff's eyes flashed. I've been questioned by Charlie Rose, by Terry Gross, by every major journalist in this country. Don't tell me I can't handle being questioned. Those people treated you with kid gloves, Kelly said, and the bluntness of it seemed to surprise even her. But she didn't back down. They let you control the narrative because that's what you're used to. I asked you one thing that didn't fit your preferred image of yourself, and you fell apart. Fell apart, Jeff repeated, his voice dangerous now. You think this is me falling apart. I think this is you running away, Kelly said. I think you'd rather storm off this set and make me look like the villain than actually sit here and deal with the discomfort of being challenged by someone you don't think has the right to challenge you. Jeff took a step closer to her. They were face to face now, and the audience collectively held its breath. You want to know what I really think, Kelly? I think you've spent so long being everyone's sweetheart that you've forgotten how to have a difficult conversation. The second things get uncomfortable, you either deflect with humor or you go on the attack. There's no middle ground with you, and there's no humility with you, Kelly fired back. You talk about wanting respect, about wanting to be heard, but you don't extend that same courtesy to anyone else. I've tried to apologize. I've tried to understand where you're coming from, and you've rejected every single attempt because it doesn't match whatever script you had in your head for how this was supposed to go. Jeff laughed, but there was no humor in it. The script in my head, Kelly, you're the one with a production team and a teleprompter and a carefully planned segment designed to make you look good. Don't talk to me about scripts. This isn't about looking good, Kelly said, her voice rising again. This is about trying to have a conversation with someone who came in here determined to be offended. You've been looking for an excuse to feel superior since the moment you sat down, and I gave you one. I'm not disappointed in you, Jeff said quietly, and the sudden shift in his tone was jarring. I'm disappointed in what this has become. You used to be different, Kelly, when you first started this show. There was a rawness to you, a willingness to be real with people. Somewhere along the way, that got polished away. Kelly's face crumpled slightly, and for a moment she looked genuinely wounded. That's not fair. You don't know me. You don't know what it takes to do this every single day, to be on for everyone, to make sure every guest feels comfortable. You come in here for 20 minutes and judge me for not living up to some ideal you created in your mind. Maybe you're right, Jeff said, and the admission seemed to catch Kelly off guard. Maybe I did create an ideal, but that doesn't change the fact that I felt dismissed here today. Kelly, it doesn't change the fact that I left here feeling smaller than when I arrived. Kelly's eyes filled with tears, and she didn't bother to hide them. And I'm supposed to do what with that, Jeff? I'm supposed to carry the weight of your feelings while also doing my job and keeping this show running. I don't know, Jeff said honestly. Maybe there's no good answer here. Maybe we're both right and both wrong. And this is just what happens when two people who care about their work run into each other at the wrong angle. Kelly wiped at her eyes roughly. I don't accept that. We could have had a great conversation, Jeff, but you wouldn't let us get there because the foundation was wrong from the start, Jeff said. You can't build a great conversation on a flawed premise. And the premise here was flawed because you'd already decided who I was before I opened my mouth. Then correct me, Kelly pleaded. Tell me the truth. Tell me how you really work, what it really means to you. I'm asking you now genuinely, with no agenda. Just talk to me. Jeff looked at her for a long moment, and something in his expression softened. But then he looked around the studio, at the cameras still rolling, at the audience watching with wide eyes, at the producers hovering anxiously at the edges of the set. He looked back at Kelly and shook his head. Not like this, he said quietly. Not with all these people watching, waiting to see if we can turn this into a redemption moment for your show. That's not real, Kelly. That's just another performance. Kelly's face hardened again. Everything is a performance. Jeff, you know that better than anyone. The only question is whether it's an honest performance or a dishonest one. And right now, you walking off this set, that's the most dishonest thing either of us has done today. How is it dishonest to leave a situation that isn't working? Jeff asked. Because you're not leaving because it isn't working, Kelly said. You're leaving because you want to punish me. You want everyone watching at home to take your side. That's not honesty, Jeff. That's manipulation. Jeff's face flushed red. If I wanted to manipulate you, I would have smiled and nodded and given you exactly what you wanted. Instead, I told you the truth, and you're calling it manipulation because it doesn't serve your purposes. The truth, Kelly said, her voice thick with emotion, is that you're a brilliant actor who cares deeply about your work. The truth is that you're also human, and you sometimes overreact to things that aren't meant as attacks. That's the truth, Jeff. All of it. Jeff stared at her, and for the first time since the interview started, he seemed at a loss for words. Kelly pressed forward. You want authenticity. I messed up at the beginning of this interview. But instead of giving me the chance to recover, you decided to make an example of me. And now you're leaving because staying would mean admitting that maybe you could have handled this differently too. Jeff set the microphone down on the coffee table with deliberate care. You're right, he said finally, and Kelly's eyes widened in surprise. I could have handled this differently. But Kelly, so could you? And the fact that we're standing here right now, both convinced that we're the injured party, tells you everything you need to know about why this didn't work. Kelly nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face now. So that's it. We just agree to disagree and go our separate ways. I don't know what else to do, Jeff admitted. I don't know how to fix this, and I don't think you do either. Kelly looked out at her audience, then back at Jeff, and her shoulders sagged. Okay, she said softly. If you need to go, then go. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry this went the way it did. Jeff nodded once. I appreciate that, Kelly. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry too. He turned and walked toward the edge of the set, his footsteps echoing in the silent studio. Kelly stood frozen, watching him go. Just before he reached the exit, he paused and looked back one more time. You're better than this, Kelly, he said. Don't let them polish you into something you're not. And then he was gone, disappearing through the stage door and leaving Kelly standing alone in front of her audience, tears on her face and a show to finish. So what do you think really caused Jeff to walk off? Was Kelly wrong for how she approached the interview, or was Jeff too sensitive about his process? Subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what side you're on.